Hey, I got a lighter here. It's called a Noble gas lighter. Alright, and it says down here it's a LIEBE2 model. Now this is I'm pretty sure this is a Japanese lighter because it is a quality lighter. Just to feel it in your hands, it's got a metal brass tank in it. And I've already serviced this lighter. I took it apart one night. I couldn't get to sleep, but anyway, it was late and I didn't want to deal with video camera, and I was just kind of being quiet and thinking, so I didn't want to, I didn't want to do a video on it, and sometimes that works out for the best because sometimes lighters require more work than thought, and kind of you got to go back and kind of remedy something. And this is one of those lighters, and it's not because it's a bad lighter. It's just because it's the design of it. So I'm going to disassemble this lighter and show you a few issues that I did have with it. Now, it isn't issues that you can't be dealt with. It's just things you got to think about when things don't appear to be right when you're putting things back together. Because sometimes when you put, like, say for instance, you put a new sponge in a lighter, it all depending on the mechanism, it can affect shut-off mechanism, but all dependent. So we're going to go through that with this lighter here. As you can see, this lighter here is I've got a good adjustable flame down. Actually, when I set it high and turn it off, the gas comes on about right there. Okay. And another thing too is, guys, sometimes you can get your butane lighter set too high and you go to fire it up and it won't light because it's got an excessive amount of pressure coming out. So all else fails, turn it down. All right. This is a nice lighter. I've never seen a cap design like that. Look at the cap. Look at the cap on it. There is no pinhole in it. No. It's really a different type of mechanism. But it's a solid design mechanism. All right. Let's get to it. I did have to replace, or I didn't replace it, but I did find a filler valve cap for this. It's not the exact one, but it does work. Okay. So when you get these off, these will pop off. Okay. Let's keep that in mind here. Alright, now I never had any problem with the fill valve on it. It was just operating perfect. Alright. What I'm going to do now is evacuate the butane out of the tank so I don't forget and blow my parts all over the table when I'm disassembling it. This one does have a center pin in the middle. I think you guys can see that. Let me zoom in. See the center pin in the middle? You get a center pin in the middle, guys. You want to use this in here. See, with a hole in the top. Sometimes you might have to put that filler valve first before you put it on. Sometimes you might have to put it on here and push it down first. Okay. to get the hole the size you need. But whenever you got a pin like that, you want to use this one. Or at least try this one. Alright. Now, first thing on this lighter is take out, let me zoom up a little bit, this little screw right here. And this is just, this is just a regular size, or a regular, all that does is hold this plate on. This just unscrews counterclockwise. I'm going to try to reflect back and keep myself in frame here. Matter of fact, to keep myself in frame, I'm going to put an X right here. And we all know I'm in frame. See what you got there is just a little plate and a little bitty screw that holds the plate on. Okay. Now here's what you got here. This screw here is next. That screw there, see this is a spring mechanism. It goes on to a little bitty rod in it. It actually holds this here cap on. Once you loosen this, see that? Cap comes right off. That's really kind of an interesting mechanism. Now let's just take this off. Now when you take this top part off here that holds your cap on, there's going to be this little spring assembly beneath. Now I want you to, what I want you to notice too is how this here is a mechanism that actually let me turn it up. So when you lift the cap up, the cap comes up here and pushes this valve down. This little valve right here. Alright. So you have this little push thing that comes out. See how it's got a little notch, it just fits right underneath your valve in there, and there's a little hole right here. Now, for FYI, there's a little brass washer. See that? Right on here. Don't lose that. Don't lose that little brass washer. Now you might have noticed there's an O-ring I put on here, and I'll get to that later on, so you'll know what's going on there. Now your next step is you got a screw right down in here. You got to remove that screw. What that does, it allows that this here top part here, this screw here screws this top part into the tank. Alright, so now the tank will fall right out of the bottom. Just like that. Okay. And what you got here, in order to get, this always falls out, that's your flame adjustment screw. But in order to get this top part out of here, you have to unscrew this thumb wheel the opposite way that you roll it, okay? Because it's reverse threads. It's made to, well, yeah, and before you do that, excuse me, one thing you gotta do, you gotta take the flint out. The flint, otherwise it won't come out. Okay, now we should be able to reverse this. There we go. We got it out. All right. Okay, now I want to explain something to you why I got this the way it is. I don't know if you can see this, but when I put this back together the first time, there was a lot of play in this way because it was wore out and it was oblong. It was oblong in here, just from the, years of use. So what I had to do is put a little spacer in there, a little metal around there to take out some of that movement in there. And what I use is these little straps, about 4 millimeter wide and about a 0.09 thick. But this is what you use when you're soldering like your lithium-ion batteries together to make a battery pack. That's what this is. That's where I got it. You can get that on eBay. And so I put it back together, okay? And what I was noticing is when I put enough pressure on this side here to roll it, this roller assembly, I can hear it right here. This thumb wheel was hitting the case. So I was getting some wear, off of this here. I don't know if you can see it. You can't see it now, guys. But this was wore. I'm trying to focus. But what I did is I put a piece of tube over this. Okay? This is what I used. 1.3 millimeter OD by 1.1 millimeter ID brass tube. Got this a long time ago when I was working on Flamin' Air pipe lighters. Excellent. Coming out of UK. But anyway, because this here part right here, if you get a lighter that gets wore, keep this in mind. This here part set right down in here. Okay? And that just fit perfect down that hole once I got that put on. So after I got it back together, there was no roller hitting that side of that case. So that's what I did to take out some of the slack on that. But if yours doesn't have that much wear, you won't have to worry about it. I'm just telling you about this in case you do have a problem on this lighter or any other lighter. Excuse me. Just give it some thought what you can do, okay? In this case, I just used a little brass tube and pushed it on there as tight as I could, and it works perfectly. All right? All right. Now, this valve here, there's still gas in it. This valve here, it's got a pressed in top. You've probably seen my videos, you've seen these pressed in tops before. Well, I didn't take it apart because it's working. Alright, the valve itself, the stopper inside here, and everything is working. I did change the O-ring on this. Don't remember the exact size it was. You're just going to have to order some smaller O-rings and and figure it out for yourself. Alright? But I took this apart here, this screws off, and I got it in there and I cleaned it all out. And on the bottom of this, let me go ahead and take this out while I'm at it, so I can show you guys what I did. Okay. When I took this apart first time, there was a well, I guess you can call it a wick. I mean, that's what it was, but there wasn't much of a wick in here. Because when you got a liquid butane in a lighter, guys, or when a lighter in here, like when you fill your lighter up, it's liquid, okay? It's got to be a gas, but there was a little wick in here. I don't know what it was made out of, paper, cork, or whatever, but it broke immediately. So I had to unplug the hole with a 1/2 millimeter steel rod, okay? I don't know if you can see down in there or not, but there's a sponge down in there right now. I'm going to take that sponge out. It's a new sponge I cut. Now the sponge that was in there was hooked onto this here little piece of brass. And you need that little piece of brass. You need to put that back in there. Okay? Because it helps. This here, when this here screws down, it screws down on top of this here brass piece and compresses the sponge inside here. Okay? So let me put that back in there. And let me check, make sure it's in there. It's in there. Now I'm going to stick this back. And because remember, the sponges I use got a hole in the middle of it. So what I did, okay, so you got to have that brass plate over there, so when you screw this down, okay, that brass is going to push on that sponge and it's going to compress it, and there's not going to be any gas going to come out if you didn't have that brass piece in there, or the hole. And so the hole on top of this valve's up here, it's not really going to shut the gas off. It's going to mess with your flame adjustment, okay? You won't have one, most likely, okay? But anyway, you take one of these apart and you break that off. Just get you a little piece of cotton off cotton swab or whatever. Kind of roll it down a little bit and just get you a tool out here like this and just tuck it down this hole. And that right there is your wick. Alright? Now, pay attention here. This ring, this is the original seal that was on this. Very pliable, so I didn't mess with it. Okay, so I'm going to stick this back in here. Just a second. Okay. Now, pay attention. Remember I was telling you about that mechanism. Right here. How that lifts up on the valve. keep in mind that I put another sponge in here, and that sponge is thicker than the one I took out. So you know what that did? That raised this valve up a little bit. If you get what I'm saying, it messed with the clearance from this little mechanism here. It messed with the clearance. Okay, so I had to deal with that. So I'll show you what I did. Alright, now let's I'm going to put this back together. Now if you need to take yours apart here, guys, just keep in mind that in order to take this assembly apart, because this is a thumb wheel and it rolls this way for your flint, you have to hold your flint wheel here and turn that this way, clockwise, to unscrew that to get this rod and that flint wheel out if you need to clean it. I done did it already, and I got that piece of, that strap in there and everything on here, so I'm not going to mess with it because it was a little tedious for me to get that in there. So, right now, I'm just going to go back to putting this back together and going over. You guys can figure out, no problem, how to rebuild this. You know, these are actually kind of simple. So, the first thing we want to do when we put this back together is, first thing you got to take care of is this part here for your flame adjustment, because you're pushing that back up. I think you can see it right here. It wants to come up there, so you gotta get this in here. I got that set low, so I want to put this in here. Well, it's kind of like on the low side. Yeah, get back out there. Give me a second here. Gotta look, see where I'm at. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, what you want to do is find the threaded part right here. Alright, that's the threaded part, screws into the top of this here. You want to put that threaded part, this end here, in like this. Then you want to stick that back in there like that. You want to keep your thumb on there and hold that tank too, because that tank comes out, then this thing, the flame adjustment screw here, is going to screw up again. You'll have to deal with that. So what you want to do is you want to get that in your tank. See, that's a little cockeyed right here. You want to get that little part here into your tank. There. You want to get it where it screws in. Give me a second here. I'll get her figured out here. There we go. You just got to work with it a little bit. There we go. That'll come off a little bit right now. I got it. See what I told you about? Let go of that brass tank. I did the exact same thing I told you not to do. There we go. Screw that on. Yeah, that rolls real smooth now. That was actually when I was turning like this, was clicking against the case right here when I was pressing it like that. So, yeah, I did it again. Just a second here. There's plenty of room on this, so. There we go. Once you get to this point here, in order to keep that in there, you know, grab your screw and stick it down in there and screw it in so you don't have to hold that tank with your finger. Now we can let go of it. And you can see how it's just real smooth. There's no clicking on the casings or nothing. Okay, now here's the deal. When I installed this the first time, because remember when I put that thicker sponge in, it raised that valve. So this wasn't timed right. So what I did was I put a real small O-ring down there, and I think it was a 0.6. I tried a 0.8 cord size O-ring. A 0.8 is too big. 5 was too small, and I did a 6. I think it's a 6.6 cord size O-ring to go over that. All depending on how thick your sponge is. If you want, cut your sponge down a little thinner or something. But anyway, in order to get that work right, that cap and everything, that timing right, I had to do that. But right now I need to put that little brass. I need to put that little brass washer back in there. There's kind of like a bevel edge on this too on the inside, and I just put it right, the bevel edge down. Okay. See what we're dealing with. See, because I had to bend the sponge was thicker, it brought this valve. It brought this valve up right here. It brought that valve up. Okay, so I had to build this up a little bit. In order to do that, I put that little bitty O-ring beneath that brass washer there. That brought the clearance up that I needed. If you guys don't have such and such to do it, cut your sponge a little thinner. But see, I didn't. So I just dealt with it. There's the kind of way you want that. You don't want, what I've gathered, you don't want this. You don't want that up like that. You know what? You don't want it up like that. It's going to mess with your, your cap. It's going to mess with your mechanism and your gas release and all that. What I did to test it is I held it down and I drained the gas out of this. But anyway, although I can put some back in it. Let me just shoot a little in here real quick. Alright. Maybe I didn't get any in there. Hold on a second. Yeah, I got everything there. Amazing how much air you get in that tank after you take one of them little valves out. You might have to bleed that a couple times to get that flame from being erratic too, just so you'll know. Maybe I need to bleed it again. Yeah. Yeah, what I'm going to have to do is, since I screwed that down too tight, I'm going to have to back up. When I took that out and I screwed that down, so hold on here a minute. I'm going to pop this tank out, and I'm going to have to adjust this first for a flame. To get a flame out of it. I want a minimum flame. Yeah, that's pretty minimum. I'll screw it down a little bit more. Okay, that's going to be my minimum flame. Now we have to go through all this again here. Okay, so just give me a minute here. Won't be a big deal. We'll figure it out here. It would be easier for me to, you know what, I'll just leave it the way it is. We'll go in with it like that. We'll put this in. Since I'm dealing with a minimum flame here, I want to keep this little nub on this right here, right close to over here. Because you got to turn it counterclockwise to get a larger flame. There we go. Now I want to put that screw back in there to hold that tank down. Alright, now I want to put this little brass washer back on here. And put the valve operating mechanism there. See how my clearance is? That's about the way you want it, just like that. Now, I just want to press on this. I should get a small flame. Got plenty of flame adjustment. Alright. Alright. And when you get to this point, just dump this stuff out here. Next thing you want to do, guys, is grab this here. Alright. Now, keep in mind this little square channel's got to slip over this edge here. And what I do after that, now hold on, here, dump everything out. Let me get it over here. Take your screw, this is your spring for your cap, and put it in there, I get it started in this hole here first. Just get the screw started like that. There you go. Now see what we got here. See how that is? That's the way you want that. And what I do is put that in there like that. Flip it over and hold it. And tighten it down. Now this doesn't automatically go into place. It's good now. Fairly good, but don't snap off your head. Your head right there. Now at this point here, just going to use this cover. Covers up your mechanisms in here. Put the little screw in here. And tighten it down. Just don't, be careful on this. It's easy to strip one of these off, guys. Make sure it's down in there. There we go. See how the lighter went off? Let's get the flint in here. I always use these flints. When I repair lighters, guys, I stick these little red flints in I get out of Austria. Best flint you can get. It's actually the manufacturers, the company that actually designed the flint back in the 1900s. Let's put it this way. Dunhill flints, you look on the back of it, where they're made, you'll see it says Austria. So, that's got to tell you something, okay? You can pay $1 each for a Dunhill flint if you want, or you can just go to the company that makes them and buy them for yourself. There's a minimum flame right there. There's a high flame. Flame's off. Alright. Now, stick that back on. I think I'll bleed this out a little bit. Yeah, pretty good. Just top it off real quick. Put this fill cap screw on there. Now it ain't quite long enough, but it goes on with about maybe a half a thread or thread. But it helps keep that plate on there. And I think it is silver, but with this light being the way it is, it's hard to tell whether it's, seems to match. But anyway, guys, this is a really, really excellent quality lighter. I mean, it's got a real nice operating system on it. Don't be afraid to tackle one of these, okay? And I'm sure, I don't know, this is named Noble, but I'm sure it comes in other brands as well, as far as, because lighter manufacturers, they branded lighters, kind of like, for instance, I Am Cronin branded lighters for Savinelli, but still made by I Am Cronin. So that is what it is. That's an excellent quality lighter. for some reason, I don't know why, I just kind of like it. I mean, the only thing I would like more about it if it was about an inch longer. That way it fit a little bit better in my hand. It's kind of short. Maybe it's like a, I don't know, I've never had a DuPont, but they say the Line 1 series or whatever they call it was shorter and the Line 2 is a little taller, but nevertheless, that's an excellent quality lighter. And not only that, the mechanisms in this lighter is simple. I got this lighter fixed, and I'll be honest with you, man, if you keep good purified gas in there, if you store the lighter, take your gas and your flint out, I think, you know, store this in a dry place and put in any lighter when you store it, guys, put a little moisture absorbing packet in it to keep the moisture away. But this is actually a nice, beautiful lighter. Simple mechanism. To me, simplicity is the best because I think you'll have longer times in between service. You say how much? Well, that's hard to say. It's really hard to say. You don't. It all depends how you treat your lighters. You know, if you treat them well and you keep them clean and you don't abuse them. You know, lighters last years. You know, this lighter here. And I hate to say, I don't know how old it is. It might be 40 years old. It's, you know, it's thinning out on the, I don't know if it was just, you know, there's a little bit of a dark gold here, so a little bit darker, but still, nevertheless, the case, the quality of the case and everything is there. Anyway, guys, that's it on that.